Thank you for tuning in to TalkWad.com, the world's fastest growing internet radio network. Please check out all the other great shows on www.talkwad.com.
You're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show with your host, Eric Mancini. Real talk from the heart. Now here's Eric.
Drifting on a lonely sea, wishing you'd come back to me.
Welcome to another edition of the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I am your host, Eric Mays Sr. I tell you what an exciting time we have been having all of this month, in the month of February. We kicked off this month and we started talking about love and relationship, and I know that's everybody's favorite topic, and I tell you it's been an awesome time. And listen, tonight we're going to continue in that, and I'm telling you, I'm actually thinking about continuing going into next month. We have some other plans, but we've been getting a lot of response and good feedback on this particular segment of the show, so we're thinking about continuing because it's all about you, the listeners. So when we hear from you, that helps us to adjust and readjust if we need to. Okay, so thank you so much for all of your support and all of your feedback, and we do appreciate that so much. I tell you, today, as we're continuing our segment, I want to let me just say that this show is actually proudly brought to you by TalkWad Network. Please check out the other shows on TalkWad Network with talkwad.com. That's www.talkwad.com. So we just want you to check them out, and I appreciate all that they do at the network for the support of the Heart to Heart Talk Show. Thank you so much, and we thank you, of course, all of you who are viewing and listening to the show. Thank you for tuning in today. I want to just share a few sponsors. We have the Covenant Life Apostolic Ministries and So Day Financial are sponsors of the show, so we want to just say thank you to them. And we have a very, very, very special announcement tonight. Tonight we are unveiling and we are announcing tonight a addition to the show. We are going to add a comedy spot in the show. We talk about a lot of kind of heavy topics at times, and this is a keep it real talk show, and we plan on becoming the leading Christian talk program in the nation, I tell you. And as part of that, we've got some feedback, and we are responding to that feedback, and we're going to add a segment in the show where we get a chance to share a little bit lighter conversation. How about that? So tonight, to debut what is going to be called Laughter for the Heart. Laughter for the Heart will be a 5 to 10 minute segment, and we will have Christian comedians to come in and share some good laughter. How many of us know? I tell you, sometimes we just need a good laugh, right? So I hope that you'll continue to tune in and listen to the show. It'll come in on around 9 p.m. or so. So if you're following the show, around about 9 o'clock, we'll have that segment. So tonight we're going to debut, and tonight we're going to have a new friend of mine. She is a comedian, Miss Tanya Lewis, and she will be joining us. She'll be patched in here about 9 o'clock, and she's going to share a little bit of her comedy with us, and then hopefully she'll hang out with us and be a guest on the show tonight. So we appreciate Tanya taking time out to share with us and all of the listeners at the Heart to Heart Talk Show, and we're looking forward to it. We're going to have a lot of fun, I'm sure. And so tonight we're going to actually end up opening up our segment with a topic of validation in relationship. Validation in relationship. And part of this, as we're talking about validation as it relates to relationship, I want to kind of start it off just to share with you a little bit tonight. I want to talk about a man's ego. The question is a man's ego a woman's friend or enemy? Is a man's ego a woman's friend or enemy. A lot of times I've heard women say that men operate too much from their ego. It makes us be controlling. For some people, it could be as dramatic as creating violence. It can make men sometimes be selfish. So I don't know. What do you think? Give us a call, 813-235-0644. It's 813-235-0644. Give us a call. I would love to hear from you, to hear your perspectives on dealing with the man's ego. Is it a friend or foe? Is it an enemy? Is it really an enemy to you? Is it really something that is it a deal breaker? Have you ever dealt with a man whose ego was so bad that you just could not stay in the relationship with him? Give us a call. We certainly want to hear about those situations. I want to hear your perspectives and how you dealt with those things. Because we do have egos, as I am a man, and surely we do have egos. I don't say that we should be driven by them, but it is a part of our makeup. So, the determination has to be can I make that work for me as a woman, or will it always be something that I have to battle with as a woman? So the question tonight, if you're just tuning in, we're opening it up, talking about, is a man's ego a friend or an enemy to a woman? Is that the woman's friend or enemy, that the male ego? And you're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. And if you're just tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. And we do appreciate you taking time out to share with us. And you're welcome to give us a call, 813-235-0644. That's 813-235-0644. Give us a call, share your thoughts, your opinions, your comments. If you'd like to answer the question, we definitely want to hear from you, okay? Is a man's ego a friend or enemy? I believe that, and this is just going to be from my perspective, I believe that women must learn how to use the man's ego for the good of a relationship. You say, well, Eric, what do you mean by that? Well, here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we're going to go in part 2 of the show. We're going to actually talk about women and their influence. We're going to talk about that on the back end of the show. But for this portion, I want to just say women have a awesome, powerful ability to influence a man, and the area that I want to hone into right now is his ego. If you know how to do what they call stroking of the ego, if you know how to feed that ego in a way that creates positive response back to you, you actually can obtain and get more from that particular person. In most cases, now I'm not saying in all cases, but I'm saying in most cases, you'll get a good response, more so and better than if you try to aggressively take a stand against that. The reason being is because it's a part of the makeup. It's part of who they are. It's part of who we are. So if you take a stand to resist who they are, then ultimately you're not going to get the positive response that I know you would prefer to have. So, in cases where most of the time, if you take the man and go all the way back to the Neanderthal days, you go back to caveman days, basically at our core being, we haven't changed a whole lot in the sense that we want to be validated. We always want to be validated. That validation is the key to stroking the ego. And I've heard people say, well, why do I have to do all of that? I shouldn't have to do all of that. Well, I mean, it shouldn't be looked at as a grudging task, a job that you have to be about. It should be integrated into the person of who you are and what you're presenting to that man. Because I promise you, if what you are presenting to the right person, I'm talking about a good man, good women who come together. I'm not talking about any extremes on one end or the other, but I'm saying if two good people, just given everything to be perfect, if you got two good people who coming together and you're communicating, you're learning communication styles and stuff like that. One of the things I know that typically works really well for men is when women take the time out to validate them. I saw something on Facebook that was very interesting, and I had to actually respond and comment to it, is that it was a statement made that, men want to feel like they can be a hero in the life of the woman. Now, what do you think, women, ladies? What do you think? I mean, do you think, should a man feel like he can be your hero in your life? I mean, some women say, I don't need no man to do nothing. I don't need that. I don't, whatever. But it's not always going to be just about what you need. It's also about what he needs. Maybe he needs to feel, as a man, he needs to feel that sense of validation and importance because it brings out of him the better part of him. It brings out that part of him that shows up, that wants to accomplish, that wants to achieve, that wants to do things. It's go back to the caveman days, when he goes out with his club and he attacks and he fights these huge dinosaurs that are 1,000 times his size. He fights them and he continues to fight them until he wins, and he wants to bring the spoils home to the cave. He wants to show it to the woman and say, look at what I did, and all she has to do is validate that. If you validate that and make him feel like a hero, listen, he'll go back out and he'll fight the next biggest one. He'll take on the next biggest dinosaur. That dinosaur could be representative of financial challenges. It could be communication challenges. It could be whatever challenges there are in your relationship. It'll make him want to have a willingness to battle, fight those things with you, and you'll have a better covering. You'll have a better teammate. You'll have a better partner because you are fostering a good return out of him. And I think the unfortunate thing is that a lot of women are left hurt, they're left damaged, they're left emotionally hurt in terms of being able to relate to a man. And so now, you get a man who is a good man, but he has needs, he has different things. So now she doesn't want to provide those things because who she may have tried to provide them for before, he may not have understood his identity. He may not have understood what he was getting from you. So now you get this man who is appreciative of who you are. He's appreciative of who you can be, but now you can't relate to him. You can't really communicate with him. You're not going to stroke his ego. You're not going to want to pour back into him because right now you feel like it's owed back to you. It's owed to you. So now if this person's not willing to pay what is owed to you, then basically what happens is there's a breakdown in that relationship. And a lot of good connections that really could have been a long-lasting, rewarding relationship ends up being torn apart by poor communications and by a lack of genuine validation. Listen, women are no different. They need to be validated too. They may not call it an ego or whatever, but it will feed to the healing of some of their insecurities. A lot of times women end up feeling and acting out of a place of insecurity because they haven't been validated. And a lot of times this is why they prefer to have solid titles put to a relationship. I want to know what type of relationship I'm dealing with. Are you my boyfriend? Are you my man? We are friends with benefits. Are we looking at marriage? Whatever it is, they want a title put to that because it adds validation to what they are committing themselves to. And I think that makes sense, right? But for men, a lot of times we think differently. So we have to have good communication. And one of the things I know that definitely applies across the board, both men and women, is that nobody mind. Nobody just says, oh, don't try to make me feel good. Don't say nothing good to me. Nobody says that. everybody wants to be validated. Everybody wants to know that they mattered or they have a sense of importance, especially if they're interested in you. So we know that it's not really necessarily a gender thing, but when it comes to the ego, most of the time that is dealt with by the man. And that goes back to all of the psychological studies and all of the psychologists and all of that historical data and stuff where they talk about the mental capacities and the flow of how a man thinks. It's a lot of times it's driven by what we call the ego. So when that ego is fed positively, then for the most part, you get a positive response. So, I want to hear from you. You might not agree, and that's okay. We definitely want to hear from you. What are your opinions? Have you ever dealt with somebody that had an ego trip, ego problems, or have you ever had a situation where it worked out well for you, that you learned how to deal with this portion of your man, your husband, your boyfriend, whatever? Give us a call, 813-235-0644. You're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I am your host, Eric May Sr. I do appreciate you coming in, sticking in, being with us tonight. I hope that you'll enjoy tonight's show. I'm looking forward to having a lot of good times, a lot of fun tonight. We have a very special guest coming in later on tonight. And those of you that may have just tuned in, just want you to know we are launching the Laughter for the Heart, which is going to be a portion of the show that we're going to bring in Christian comedians, and we're going to share some fun laughter kind of conversation, and we're going to give them a chance to do their thing and hopefully bring some smiles and some laughs to the listeners. So we want this show to become holistic. I think we have a caller. Caller, if you state your name and welcome to the show. All right. I think we had a caller. All right. Caller, state your name and welcome to the Heart to Heart Talk Show.
Jennifer Johnson.
Well, hello, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What are your comments? What's your feedback? What would you like to share with us tonight?
I have nothing. I hear a friend was going to be on your show tonight, and I was calling to hear her. Am I on the wrong call?
No. Are you calling for? We have the Laughter for the Heart segment for the show. I guess you're calling looking for Tanya.
Yes.
Yes, she will be on. She should be live, and she should be talking around about 9 o'clock, and she'll be in. And then if you want to call back, while she's going to stay on the show after her segment. So if you want to call in, she'll get a chance to actually respond to you right after 9 o'clock. Her portion's going to run about 5 minutes, so probably about 9:05 or so. We'll be going to a break, and then after that, you'll have a chance to talk to her on the air live when she'll still be here.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling in. We look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I'm your host, Eric May Sr., and I do appreciate you all calling in and taking interest in the show. We have an exciting show tonight. I'm looking forward to Miss Tanya Lewis going to be calling in. She'll be our comedian for tonight for the Laughter for the Heart segment. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited. She is kicking that off for us tonight, and we're looking forward to having a good time, and hopefully you will stick around and enjoy the show as well. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. You're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. Thank you so much. We have another caller. Caller, state your name and welcome to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. Caller, just state your name and welcome to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. Alrighty. Well, we just having a few little technical difficulties, but we we have some callers that are calling in. We do thank you. Please be patient with us as we are taking care of all of that. You'll have an opportunity to get patched in here soon. So if you're listening, please continue to keep calling in. I know a lot of people are going to be calling in looking for our Laughter for the Heart segment, and I'm glad that you're calling in. Thank you so much. And I'll tell you, we're looking forward to it ourselves. We're very excited, and we definitely want you to stay with us for tonight. Hopefully there'll be something that we can share that will be meaningful and helpful for you tonight, and hopefully you get a chance to get some laughs in and get a smile on your face if you had a rough day. If you're looking forward to end up having a rough day tomorrow, we want to start you off with close out your night with a good smile and a laugh, and hopefully we will get a chance to share heart to heart. This is Real Talk from the Heart. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. You're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show, and we are broadcasting live, streaming live on the air, and we are here from the TalkWad Network. We're just thankful for all that they are doing, and they're working feverishly on all of the technical issues. But so just be patient with us. All right. So we were talking about the male ego. We're talking about as men, we have egos, and it can work out for the good. But a lot of times it gets misunderstood, it gets mishandled, so the responses aren't necessarily very good. I'm not placing blame. I'm not trying to put blame nowhere in terms of the typical social issues and relationship challenges that come about. But we're just talking real talk. We're just talking real talk about how people communicate with one another. And a lot of times, especially in the Christian community, a lot of times we go to extremes. We end up not dealing with issues in a healthy way. We end up dealing with them in an extremist way. And a lot of times the results of that is increased divorce or broken relationships, heartbreak, people left. And listen, heartbreak is not something that's just privy to women. Women are not the only one that have their hearts broken, but a lot of times men and women they may respond differently to heartbreak. And so, a lot of times it's looked at as maybe men don't feel anything, or maybe they don't really, they're not engaged by stuff like that. But truthfully, we do. And a lot of times men, we just hide stuff really well. And, again, that's that ego. Our ego kicks in and says, men aren't supposed to cry. Men aren't supposed to be looking. We're not supposed to be all broken apart and stuff like that. So our ego kicks in, and we have to show forth this face that we're not bothered, we're not hurt, whatever. One of my favorite movies is the movie with Will Smith, when he plays the role of Hitch. And in that, towards the back end of the show, when he's showing and he's displaying his own emotions, he comes to realize that when his heart got broken, he didn't want to talk. But he did get a grip in the end, and he broke down and decided that, hey, he wasn't going to let his ego get in the way. He was going to go after his woman, right? So a lot of times, ladies, it takes us a minute to get it sometimes, so be patient with us. I know we're a little slow sometimes, but be patient with us, but don't take all of the ego stuff as a negative. It could work out for the positive. It could bring good change in that man, if it's used right, So the question is, ladies, do you know how to use the male ego for your good, or for the good of the relationship? Do you know how to use that to your benefit? And that those are it's just elementary questions. We're just sharing. I just want to know, first of all, is the man's ego your friend, or is it your enemy? How do you see it? It's kind of like the glass half empty, half full kind of thing. Is it your friend, or is it your enemy? And if it is something that's more friendly for you, how does that play out in your relationship? How does that play out? Do you have you learned how to utilize a man's ego so that it benefits your relationship? Do you do it in a way that it's beneficial, it's constructive, or do you do it in a way that's critical and judgmental? What is the response? And I'm not trying to put blame nowhere. I'm just dialoguing with you to see where things are. I definitely want to hear from you. 813-235-0644. It's 813-235-0644. And I certainly want to hear from you. I definitely want to hear from you somewhere in the course of the show. Give us a call. Let us know. I would love to hear some of your stories about how you feel like you may have had to deal with a male's ego, or how did you go about managing that process dealing with his ego. You're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We have a awesome topic. We're talking about validation in the relationship as it relates to male egos and how women deal with that. How does it affect your relationship? All those kind of things. So we're talking about that, but we also have a special unveiling in the show tonight. We have a new 5-minute segment called the Laughter for the Heart. Laughter for the Heart is going to be a segment of the show. We're going to hopefully bring in Christian comedians, and they're going to have an opportunity to share in the show, share some comedic time during the show. So because we want to make it a fun and interactive show. So we're trying to create some things, and we do thank you for your feedback, and for those of you that have given feedback, we are responding to that. So I just want you to know that we are looking to become the #1 Christian-based talk radio show, and in all of the land, all of this U.S. of A. And I am fortunate and I'm blessed to be the host of the show, and I do appreciate everybody's support. Thank you for following us on Facebook. You're welcome to continue to follow us on Facebook, and we look forward to getting some of your comments and some of your feedback. And listen, you can email us as well directly to the show, and that's Heart to Heart Talk 46. That's HEART TOHEART Talk 46 at gmail.com. That's Heart to Heart Talk 46 at gmail.com. We definitely we're interested in hearing from you, topic suggestions, situations, relationship challenges you're having, financial challenges you're having, whatever it is that you think is important to you. We are willing to look for the information for you, and we'll put it on the air, and we'll address as many of those issues as we can to try to get answers for you. We want to be here for you, and we want to be the show that you turn to for real talk from the heart. And we are the Heart to Heart Talk Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. We're going to be getting ready to go into our Laughter for the Heart segment soon. So hopefully you all will be sticking around. And we are certainly excited and looking forward to hearing from our guests. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. This is a great time, and hopefully you all will continue to keep following along with us. We're gonna be looking forward to doing this. Hopefully, we're looking at possibly doing it every show. So we'll see how everything goes with that. Your support helps us to know what we want to keep and what we need to get rid of, what we need to change for the show. So thank you so much. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show, and I'm your host, Eric May Sr. We are on the theme of love and relationship. We're on the theme of love and relationships all this month, and we're continuing that today. And right now, we're getting ready to go into the Laughter for the Heart segment, and I hope you're excited. We have our own comedian, Tanya Lewis, and hopefully Tanya's on the line. Tanya, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. I'll tell you, Tanya, we are so excited here at the show to have you here on the show. Thank you so much. We are unveiling, as you know, the Laughter for the Heart segment, and it's a part of the Heart to Heart Talk Show. And we are so honored that you are willing to be a part of our unveiling of this segment and to take part in this segment. So listen, I am going to get out of the way and let you do your thing. Listen, I want to introduce you to our audience. This is Tanya Lewis, comedian, and you got the floor, so have some fun.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. What an honor it is to even be on the radio. I see that maybe I shouldn't have told some of my church friends, because my friend Jennifer Johnson from my church called in early. Yeah, but I'm surprised that she even called, because she actually took the last single man that we had at our church. But I love Jennifer then. But it's funny that you wanted to talk about love, because I actually just did a show on love. I actually was married for 7 years. It was the longest 7 years of my life. I actually planned to kill that man because I got tired of him telling me how to spend my money.
Oh, wow.
And it got really serious. I mean, to the point where I went down to Home Depot and I got some duct tape, some rope. I was planning to take him out, Eric. I'm serious. I was going to take him out. It got that bad. I called one of my friends from the church. She had one foot in the door anyway, so I knew I could count on her to give me an alibi. I was in the mirror practicing my alibi and everything. Then I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up to an episode of CSI. That episode changed my whole life.
Oh, wow.
They had a woman that was in jail for the same thing that I was plotting to do. She was going to kill her husband. Yeah. They beat that woman to death. Needless to say, that just changed my whole outlook on everything. I started frying that man some chicken and running his bath, and we made up.
Wow.
But I still ended up getting a divorce then.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm saved and I'm single and I'm in the church. And dating in the church is different. They have all these rules now. You got to go to marriage counseling now. Can you believe they want you to go to marriage counseling? So I went and I got the little workbook on marriage counseling, and I got up to my third class. I'm proud to say I'm up to my third class. Took my third marriage counseling class, and my pastor has the nerve to ask me where my fiance was. I wasn't even dating anyone. I told him I was there on faith. So I have to start over again. But I'm waiting on the Lord. But I got impatient, right? And I tried to help the Lord out.
Oh, wow.
And I got myself in a bad situation. I ended up dating someone I wasn't even attracted to. I spoke in tongues. He didn't speak in tongues. I went and purchased him the book on how to speak in tongues. I was like, look, brother, we need to be equally yoked. You need to speak in tongues, Spanish, or something. I ain't care what it was, but we just needed to just be on the same accord. So things weren't working out. And I ain't going to say he was ugly. It's not a nice word, but he was different from anybody I've ever seen. I mean, we went out in the public. I saw people from my church. I rolled the window up. It was 104 degrees heat advisory. I saw people from my church, and I just rolled the window up. I didn't want to be seen with him. It was just different. I just knew it wasn't going to work out. You want to know how saved a brother is? Take him to church. You know what was the bottom line for me? When I took him to church, and he tapped me on my shoulder and asked me what Genesis was. That was it for me. So I'm saved, and I'm waiting on God. I just want to thank you, Eric, and I'm happy to be a guest on your show. I mean, I know a little something about love, so if they have questions, feel free to ask me. And I'm going to be real. They might not like what I got to say, but I'm going to keep it real. So, thank you.
Wow, that is so awesome. Listen, Tanya, now look, how did you decide to break into comedy, and why did you keep, I mean, obviously I know you say you're saved and all that, but, is that the reason why you held on to the title of being a Christian comedian, or did you ever have any thoughts of being in the mainstream comedy sector, or is it something that you did more so for like ministry?
Yeah, actually, I've been like the class clown like all my life throughout school. That was like my way of coping. All my friends was like, you should do comedy. And I'm like, I'm not going to do comedy until I hear from God. God not going to have me upstage making a fool out of myself. And so I was actually looking for a gig for my daughter. And God was like, tell them that you do comedy. And I'm like, tell them I do comedy. So I emailed the lady, and I was like, okay, I do Christian comedy. She's like, I'm looking for a comedian. I'm like, oh, Lord, what you got me into? And so it happened to be a lady from the church that was actually hosting a fashion show.
Okay.
And so she gave me the gig, and God gave me the title Fit for the Kingdom. Now, if y'all see my picture, you know I'm not fit for the kingdom. So he gave me this thing, Fit for the Kingdom. I'm like, where are we going with this, Lord? So I ended up doing that show, where actually led up to me doing other shows. So now I actually write for Mr. Brown's comedy page, and then I have my own page. So I go to different churches and do things. So I can honestly say, like, everything I say, God really gives me, because this is not what I was going to do. But I do other shows, but I mainly stick to comedy because God told me that I was going to bring laughter to the kingdom.
Wow, that is so awesome. Listen, if you're just tuning in, we have a very special, amazing guest on the show tonight. We have our own Tanya Lewis, comedian, and she is unveiling our Laughter for the Heart segment. And I do appreciate you coming in and doing it. I know we have been trying to put it together, and we're gonna perfect this thing, I tell you, because we're gonna have a lot of fun. I want people to be able to enjoy themselves when they be a part of this show, and when they listening and they're calling in and stuff like that. I want them to be able to enjoy themselves. So I just thought it would be a good, healthy fit, and I do appreciate you being willing to come and take time out to be with us on the show. And are you going to be able to stick around for the rest of the show?
Yeah, I'll stick around, yes.
Okay, good. That's awesome. That's awesome. Listen, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. We have a comedian, Tanya Lewis, who's part of the show. She's here as the guest tonight. She's not in the studio. She's online with us, but we do appreciate her making time to share with us tonight, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get some laughs. Listen, if you have questions, and listen, Tanya, we've opened the show up with the topic of validation in relationships, and we're talking about dealing with the male ego, and if the question that we asked was that, is the male ego a friend or an enemy to the woman? And the other part of that is, does the woman know how to use the ego for the good of the relationship, or for the good of wherever they are? I think we have a caller. Caller, just state your name and welcome to the Heart to Heart Talk Show.
Hi, this is Perlene Eric, and I'm watching you, but I don't have any volume. I've troubleshoot, and I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Have you had a call? If you had a call saying that today, right?
I couldn't hear you.
I can't hear you online.
Oh,
I can
okay.
see you, but I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're glad that you was able to get through and get connected to us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to you, and I can't hear you. Wow. I don't know whether it's my laptop or whether it's your system, but I've rebooted several times. I can hear the ad, but I can't hear your show.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, did you have anything that you wanted to share with us tonight while you're on the air?
No, I don't. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we do appreciate you calling in, though.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much for calling. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. Thank you all so much for all of your calls and tuning in. We're getting ready to go to a break right now. Hold on to your dial. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
The West Central coast of Florida has an amazing music scene. Festivals, clubs, special performances, and there's always a lot of live music. The problem has always been getting the word out about events. Then GoTonight.com emerged on the scene. The brainstorm creation of founder Don McKeon, a Sarasota entrepreneur. We caught up with Don and his inspirational friend, Frank Papa, at the Flying Dog Cafe.
This is Frank. I'm Don. Frank is the reason that there is a GoTonight.com. He would call me repeatedly.
Where are we going? Where do you want to go? Where will we go tonight?
The website has been a boon to many small clubs. So next time you find yourself asking, where will we go tonight? You've got the answer.
Thanks for tuning into the Heart to Heart Talk Show. Now here's Eric.
Welcome back to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. I'm your host, Eric May Sr., and I do appreciate all of you tuning in and listening in and following the show tonight. I am so excited tonight. We have a very special guest tonight, and we want to just say hello once again to Tanya Lewis, comedian. She came in and unveiled our Laughter for the Heart segment. We're doing a comedian segment here on the show. We're adding that into the show, and we do thank you, Tanya, so much for coming and sharing with us tonight and taking some time out to hang out with us tonight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now, before you came on, we were talking about the male ego and how it relates to our communication and our connections with women. Is it viewed by women to be a friend or an enemy? And do you feel, in your opinion, Tanya, as a woman, do you feel like that there is a positive way to use or deal with the male ego, and have you ever had to deal with that? I mean, what's some of your experiences in that?
Oh Lord. I wouldn't say I really had to deal with it. I was married for 7 years, so I was blessed for most of my marriage, part of my marriage, where there wasn't any issues as far as egos. So I really can't give an opinion on it. I was blessed with that for a certain part of my marriage. Of course, I had my issues, but that wasn't a part of it.
Now, but do you feel like even from a perspective of dealing with, say, validation within the relationship, because that's an important portion of communicating in a relationship. How did you deal with say validation issues, or was that something that even got addressed?
Well, again, I mean, he wanted to be, I would say, more in my single life and trying to date, like, in the world. I wouldn't say in marriage, where people want to be validated just in certain, it depends on, like, your typical, like, upbringing. Like, for me, I grew up in an environment where I wasn't loved. So in most of my relationships, I did want to be validated. I wanted someone who would tell me they love me or whatever.
Okay. But I mean, now, do you think that, and you bring up an interesting point. I mean, do you think that for a lot of women, do you think that if you grew up in a home where there was very little validation, or if there was no expressions of, kind of love and caring, all that kind of stuff, do you think that is pretty much the basis of maybe quote unquote needing validation? And because I think sometimes that being validated sometimes gets a negative connotation. It's like it makes you seem needy, like you're needy, but it's not. I don't think necessarily that you're needy. I think it is a human trait. I think that a lot of times we gravitate to validation because I think most people want to matter. I mean, I think for the most part, I think people want to matter. They want to feel important, and that's all part of that. But I think when we are delivering that, or if we are dealing with that in relationship, it's looked at from a negative perspective. So therefore, it's handled and dealt with negatively, even in maybe just dating. I mean, just in dating and trying to get to know somebody, there could easily be a perception that a person might be too needy or something like that. And it might not be that. It just may be this is an area where they are lacked, where it's been a lack in. There's just been no validation. Now, I'm going to tell you where I have found it, and a lot of people listening now may not agree, but I have found it a lot in domestic violence type of relationships, where for the most part, when women are battered, a lot of battered women usually end up on the back end. As part of their healing process, there is a need to have more validation because there's such an emotional trauma, not just a physical trauma, but there's a lot of emotional trauma. Sometimes there's not even a physical violence. Sometimes there's just verbal violence that's severe enough that leaves wounds and challenges where not just women, but even with men, we just, that ego thing gets in the way. We just won't confess a lot of times that we are wounded when we are. But I think validation has become very important in the fact that when we are left in wounded situations, or if we're left with hurt situations, I think validation is one of those kind of more quieter elements that ends up becoming something important. I mean, what do you think, Tanya?
Yeah, that's true. I was in a situation where that's a whole different that's a whole different show. It's a whole different show. About I was in a relationship, and because of my upbringing, I did feel like I needed to be validated at one point, but it wasn't until I realized that God loved me, so I no longer needed that validation.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, on the
You have needy people.
This is keep it real. This is keep it real talk right here, right? So, on the real truth, we have to know that we love God. God loves us. We got all of that. But the real bottom line is we are all put here to learn and know how to relate to one another. So as much as we love God and God loves us, there's still that part of us that we have to learn how to engage and relate to each other. And our perceptions of certain things a lot of times affects our portrayal, how we personify ourselves, how we speak of ourselves, how we present ourselves, a lot of times is affected and guided by our perceptions. And so if the perception is I don't really need anybody anyway, it doesn't matter what nobody thinks, well, then we'll convince ourselves that we don't have to have any kind of validation. But in essence, really, people look for validation and they get validation in different forms, different ways. And so, sometimes the old folks used to say, you just need some attention. You say, and I used to hear old people say, if you want some attention, I got a belt that'll give you some attention, but there's a lot of times people cry out for attention and they do it in different ways, different methods. Some of it is through denial of where their emotions and feelings really are. Some of it is the other way. Some of it is the other extreme, that they're so on this hurtful place that they're in that they can't see or think past anything else. So it's like, there's still this dealing with being validated within the relationship. Some people say, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But I'll tell you what, I've seen relationships where people have starved emotionally within a relationship, and that in and of itself became the root issue that led to all kinds of other stuff, infidelities, all kind of things, where women had no validation whatsoever, and all it took was for another man to kind of come along the way and start kind of pouring water on a dry flower, and before you know it, they're gravitating, they're running off with the mailman, and and it's a done deal. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think it is something a little more key than what we want to confess or what we want to profess. I definitely would love to hear from some of you out there. Number is 813-235-0644. This is the Heart to Heart Talk Show. We're just talking today. We're just talking about validation and relationship. I want to just throw in something. I want to throw something else out there. I want to talk about maybe the influence that women have. Women have had influence over men for years. Even when we go back before the women's lib movements and all that stuff, where it was perceived that, there was unfair treatment. And in a sense, I guess there was. But what I'm saying is that women, even from Bible times, have had more influence than what they allowed themselves to believe that they had. And this may not necessarily be a perfect example, but in the profession of prostitution, women have dominated that profession. They say it's like the oldest profession there is, and women have dominated that profession. Why? Yeah. Because their influence, their ability to put on the right kind of clothes, the right kind of makeup, and present themselves the right kind of way will cause men to even want to spend money, if necessary, to get into their presence, to be a part of their life, to do something. And kings have fought each other over a woman. There's influence that women have had. Now, I'm not saying that that's always been a good thing. It's not always been a bad thing. there are Bible scriptures, when we talk about Delilah and Samson. We could there's different people we could talk about where a woman's influence was at work. I really believe that if a woman could really know the essence of who she is, her identity, be in that confidently, flow in that confidently, and be able to know, if she knows that importance well, she will also know who her gift would be for. I see women that it's their gift, and that gift has to fit with someone, not just anyone, but it'll fit with someone. So that. But the problem is that if they are hurt from prior relationships, if they're starving for whatever attentions they need, whatever it is that they're longing for, whatever position that they've been left in, whatever condition they're left in, if that is not brought to a good balance, a good wholesome place, then what happens is a lot of times men come along and they may not necessarily respond correctly. They will cause a woman's influence to become something negative. They will cause her essence of who she is to become something negative. We don't like the response of that. We don't want a woman to be angry. They say there's nothing worse than being under the same roof with an angry woman. That's what the word says. But I think in essence, there has been an injustice in some degree where a lot of women have been left portrayed as just being sex objects. They are not honored necessarily the way they should be in terms of the workplace. All of these things, I don't think that it required to create a movement that says that they're just equal men across the board. I think that is an imbalance still, because there's still going to be a lot of things that men do that women shouldn't be doing. I mean, not because they're not capable, but it's just some things that you shouldn't be doing. And I think to be able to accept that, and this is just my opinion, I mean, to be able to accept that, I think is a greater accomplishment. We know that there's things, I know we're talking about relationships and love and stuff, but I mean, when we're talking about women today, there's all these things going on. There's women going on the front line of warfare now. They're going to go on the front lines with the men. They want to do all these other things, and it's hard in our society to be able to grasp. I know it would be hard for me to grasp any of my daughters to just end up, my son too, but to just be out there on the front lines, to have my daughters out there carrying weapons and being out there on the front line, just because of the way our society is in Western culture, I just have a really hard time fathoming that. I mean, for the sake of saying it's quote unquote equal. I don't know. When it comes to relationship, I don't think it's really about equality and fairness. I think it's about being just or unjust. That's the way God is. And if we are in Christian relationships, his thing is to be just or unjust, because it's not about being fair. It's just about it being right. It's about it being just. It could be right. It may not look it may not look fair, but it could be right. So I don't know. What do you think? I mean, do you think that women's influence today has gone what can we say? Misused, misunderstood, or do you think women are becoming more aware of their ability to have influence today? All right. Is Tanya still there? All right. Well, maybe we might have lost connection with her. But we do thank Tanya for being on the show tonight. And we appreciate you tuning in, being with us tonight and sharing with us. We just been dialoguing and talking tonight. And if you're still tuning in, we're on the back end of the show. You can still give us a call, 813-235-0644. You're welcome to give us a call. Share your thoughts and opinions with us tonight. We've been talking about women and their influences. We're talking about validation within a relationship. And hopefully we've shared something or triggered some thought. You're welcome to email us at hearttohearttalk46@gmail.com and shoot us an email. We definitely want to hear some feedback from you. And, that helps us to be able to adjust the show and get from that. I think we have a caller. Caller, state your name and welcome to the Heart to Heart Talk Show.
Hey, Eric, this is Perlene.
Well, hey, Perlene, how are you?
Oh, well, I called earlier because I couldn't hear, but I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. So, as you've been listening to the show, Perlene, what do you think? Before we close out, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about women and their influential abilities, their influence, and how that might relate to their flow with, say, the man of your life, whatever man you have in your life, if you have one, if you don't have one, how do you think that your influence would be influential with his life and with your life?
Well, having heard what you were speaking about, I kind of think it goes back to not really understanding as a woman who you are. And that's why women suffer abuse. And if you don't understand who you are, you'll just settle for anything. And abuse basically is being put to a wrong use, and when a man come in contact with a man with that ego and there is no affirmation, it's just, you have no voice. And I believe that's why the women's lib came out, because women were being abused and experiencing abuse, and they were just like, enough is enough. I'm going to cry loud and spare not. And so, it always goes, the pendulum always swings all the way to the left sometimes before it comes back to balance. And I think that's what's happened. We've basically gotten out of balance as a society, and women basically don't know who they are. But from a Christian perspective, everything has to be mirrored by the Word of God. And if you know who you are as a woman, and you are in a relationship, with Christ, then you have the right estimation of yourself.
Wow.
Therefore, when you come in contact with a man who sees who you are, as you said, the essence of who you are,
right,
then you can relax and have the freedom and the liberty of expression to be woman.
Wow.
I think that's what we're lacking, even in the teaching in our churches. We're not teaching our young girls that it's okay to be a woman. It's okay to have that freedom of expression and be who Christ has created us to be, which is a woman helpmeet.
Wow.
So nobody wants to hear the word submission. That's taboo in the church these days. They'll bite your head off in the church quicker than they will in the world.
Wow, that's awesome, Pearlie. Thank you so much for sharing that. Don't go nowhere. We have another caller. Caller, you're welcome to join us, and thank you for calling. And you're talking to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. State your name and share your comments and thoughts with us. All right. Did we have another caller in? All right. Well, so Pearlie, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. Well, we're almost about done with the show. We're right down at the bottom of the show. I want to just say thank you to all of the callers. I know there's been some technical issues and challenges tonight. Thank you so much for being so patient and for being willing to try to call back in and touch base with us. And we've been talking about love and relationships tonight. And our topics has been dealing with validation in relationship and dealing with women and their influence. We're going to continue to keep going into this. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into some other topics. I think on next week we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about some power, money, and sex on next week. I think we're going to talk about that. So it's going to be a very interesting show on next week, and we're going to look to see who we can have as guests for you. We're going to try to share something with you. So hopefully you'll tune back in on next Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Right here on www.waveoffaith.com, and is brought to you by the TalkWatt Network. And we do appreciate all of you for tuning in tonight. And Pearline, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your thoughts with us. That was some awesome insights. And we want to just say thank you to Miss Tanya Lewis, the comedian, for joining us tonight and being a part of the show. I know she may have been trying to call back in, but we do thank you for tuning in tonight. Tanya, there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you for coming back in. We appreciate you calling back in, and we just wanted to say, get a chance to publicly say thank you for coming back in and sharing with us and being here with us tonight. Hopefully, you'll be back here again. We're gonna continue to keep doing the Laughter for the Heart segment and have some comedy sharing and stuff like that in the show. And we're gonna just integrate that as part of the show. But we just want to say thank you to all of you, and I appreciate all of your participation and all of the comments and calls that have come in, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Heart to Heart Talk 46 at gmail.com. Give us an email. Let us know what your topics are, what your suggestions are, your comments, feedback on the show, whether if you like the Laughter for the Heart segment, whatever it is you like, we want to hear from you because it's important, okay? We are looking to become the #1 Christian talk program in the nation, and we can't do it without you. We do thank you for all of your support. I'm your host, Eric May Sr. I tell you, we're going to be wrapping it up for tonight, but please come back on next Sunday at 8:30 p.m. We're going to be right here again. You can go to www.waveoffaith.com and click on the Heart to Heart Talk Show icon, and we'll be broadcasting live, streaming live right here on the show. Ladies, thank you so much. Pearline, thank you for being here. Tanya, thank you so much, and we'll hopefully be talking to you all again soon. And thank you. Love you all from my heart to your heart. This is Real Talk from the Heart. You've been listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show. You all have a good night, and we'll talk to you on next week.
You've been listening to the Heart to Heart Talk Show, where your host is Eric Mays Sr. You can email questions, comments, topic suggestions to hearttohearttalk46@gmail.com.
Thank you for tuning in to TalkWatt.com, the world's fastest growing internet radio network. Please check out all the other great shows on www.talkwatt.com.